Welcome to the SMY podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Bader. Today we are going to talk to students who are taking 8th grade health and the 8th grade teacher. And this is not the classic here's what we teach in our class kind of story. This one is about the teacher, Kimberly Jaeger, who took a kind of different approach to teaching these topics. And she's building towards something, and she's using this as research and into best practices that could be used across the state of Wisconsin. So we have a front seat to kind of what is a learning lab for the teacher and seeing directly how students benefit from it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to 3 of our middle school students as they talk about a project they did about brain health. So stay tuned. Addison, tell me about the project. What class are we talking about, and what was the project?
We are 8th grade health. We are taught by Miss Jaeger, and we are advocates for brain health, which is just a quarter 3. Our goal for quarter 3 was to try and be advocates for brain health and to try and spread awareness of if someone is struggling with mental health or early stages of brain diseases.
Ben, what were the options, and what did you decide you wanted to do?
The 3 options we had were a brochure, the book that we chose, or a podcast. Initially, we wanted to do a podcast, but we decided to do a book because we thought it'd be more attainable to other people, so you didn't have to listen through it.
So Mia, what kind of book is it, and how did you make it?
Our group chose a children's book, and we did it actually on Book Creator, which had a bunch of different fonts and gave us the creativity to make it our own and make it very children's-y.
And Addison, tell me about the book. What's the story that you wrote?
We did a mostly informational text, so we found sources across the internet, like using Gale in Context or using the middle school resource page to find stuff. But we didn't really have a story. It was more factual, so everyone could just read through the book, get the information done, and it made it more. I forget what I was going to say. It just made it more easy to remember instead of just having to figure out long plots or anything. It was just more straightforward, more direct.
Ben, were there illustrations, and how did you decide what you were going to put in the book?
We had a bunch of pictures of brains doing activities or cartoons or whatever, and we thought it'd be easier to for kids to stay focused on it if there was something like a brain doing the activities that we were talking about, so then they could understand it better.
And Mia, what are some of the tips that you put in the book?
Some tips that we put in the book is lots of exercise. Exercising really can impact your physical health, and it's just something easy that everybody can do.
And then just to round it out, Addison, what have you learned, or this for anybody, what have you learned doing this project?
I learned that physical activity is just as important as mental activity is for the brain, so that can mean riding a bike, going to the gym, working on a sport. It doesn't have to be just about doing brain puzzles like word problems, equations, Sudoku. So it's also very important to focus on physical health as much as mental health when it comes to the brain.
Okay, it's working. So when I met with the students, they were showing me, they were talking to me about why they chose the projects they chose, the book and the podcast. When you presented them with these options to talk about how to present their work, what do you say? What do you say to them?
So I created a choice board off of Canva, and the students got to see a visual with a description, one being a podcast, The second one was a TikTok video, style video. And then the third choice was a children's book. I did leave it a little open-ended as a fourth choice, just that if I didn't want to limit their creativity. So if they really had something else that they'd like to try or do, I left that fourth option as kind of a floating, I listed a few things, but allowed them to really select the one that they wanted. Then, based on the topic they selected, they had to figure out how best they wanted to advocate for the importance of brain health from the research they did with their topic, and what would match their group's liking or personality or strengths, I guess, as learners, and for an assessment, what they would prefer as to how to demonstrate their learning as being an advocate, their research, and connecting it back to the brain health unit.
Excuse me. So you kind of answered the question a little bit right there, but if we could back up, tell me about what they learned about brain health and how you taught it to them.
Yeah, great. So the beginning of the brain health unit is all about being an advocate and what is the difference between being an advocate and what is advocacy. And that's also one of the Wisconsin State Health Standards, is being an advocate. And so that ties in perfect with the health curriculum. Then all the different things that we talk about during the 9 weeks, such as the importance of sleep, mental health, avoiding substances, brain stimulation. The students wrote goals about different wellness-related topics for themselves. So they got to pick a topic which helps and benefits the brain in both right now as they're developing as a teenager, but also long-term, because the brain health curriculum is all about that, what is normal aging and then what is not normal aging, and what are the signs of dementia, and dementia as a larger category to look at some things that can happen, and then also Alzheimer's. And so what I did is I dedicated Wednesdays, once we got past the advocacy component, then I leveraged Wednesdays for teaching something about brain health in terms of aging, normal and not normal aging. And then as the class wove on during the quarter, I kept bringing up other topics that we were doing as lessons in the curriculum where they could tie that back to the brain health. So their research was really being educated on one topic, for example, concussions in the brain, and sports and things, and that was one of the topics with brain health. And if they wanted to take that as their topic, the importance of that, taking care of the brain, and then one of the main parts of the brain health project is the group has to have a "did you know" statement. So the statement kind of drives also the project and the inquiry, I guess, of the research. So like, did you know that 54% of head injuries are due to tackle football, for example, something like that. And then that intrigues and lures the audience to their project and then their topic and connecting it.
Yeah, I get it. So when they were learning about this idea of brain health, was it part of it that they knew that they were talking about themselves, or was it in the abstract, and then the lessons kind of helped tie it back to their own mental health?
So I think it's easier for my students to attach to the topics because those are a little more relevant, I guess, to them right now, right? Mm-hmm. With just wellness topics of drug prevention, mental health, sleep, all those kinds of things. The brain health curriculum, what's neat about the curriculum, and that's part of the BOLD grant, is really decreasing stereotypes or stigmas behind dementia or Alzheimer's. And because there's stigmas in other aspects of teens' lives, such as mental health or something, I think the kids could connect that way. but also part of the brain health is a pre-survey about whether kids know someone that is dealing, someone that do they know someone with Alzheimer's, and or if they know somebody that if they know someone that's a caregiver. And I don't have the data right off the top of my head, but I turned it into graphics, circle graphs, so that kids could see, and it was unbelievable how many kids, the majority of students in the class, over 50%, either knew somebody living with or knew someone that was a caretaker. So the connection was really like heartfelt. And then again, if they didn't know somebody, that eventually down the road they might.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And then let's back up even further, I guess.
It's a lot there.
Yeah, it is. So this is more for the article than it is for the podcast. But,
Okay.
Tell me what modern health class looks like in middle school.
So in 9 weeks, it's a short time.
Right.
And
you get a fall class and then you get a spring class.
No, I get 4 classes times 2. So I get a class every quarter.
Okay.
So it's pretty fast and furious.
Got it.
So at the middle school level, really the focus is really 4 units, I guess, right? Kind of an overall arching like wellness, and that's like all encompassing between stress management, mental health, sleep, those things. Another one is nutrition. Another one is drug prevention and decision making. And then the last is beyond puberty and human growth and development, healthy relationships.
Okay.
So those are kind of the 4 pillars, I guess, if you will. In the 9 weeks, there is definitely depending on the way that the quarter kind of rolls, sometimes there's more emphasis towards one or the other, just in the sense of like timing. And but the other thing too is all of my students, as part of, again, one of the health standards, is they all write a wellness SMART goal. That cannot be academic, and it's a 4-week goal, and they monitor their progress, and they talk about the process and the reflection, and they do a motivational interview with a peer, and that also helps to drive and connect, right, their choices and their decision making to something that matters for them, and then they get to self-monitor that for the 4 weeks.
Sure. So an example might be like getting a great night's sleep. Right?
Correct.
And then what time did I go to bed? Write it down. What time did I wake up? How did I sleep?
Exactly. Yep. So kids learn how to write a SMART goal. I always give them a starter sentence to help them out in the next 4 weeks, right? So it's great to have, we talk about how it's great to have bigger goals, longer term goals. But right now we're just focusing in on a goal that is tangible, something that's relevant and important to you right now as a teenager. And we'll do that a little bit after we've talked about many aspects of wellness and health habits that aren't so healthy, so that then kids could also, if they need a little bit of help, I have a long list of ideas that teens have used in the past too. But that would be a perfect example. Like, I want to improve my sleep. In the next 4 weeks, I want to improve my sleep from getting 6 hours to getting 8 hours, because they know that's the minimum, right? And I'm going to do that by putting my cell phone, charge it in another room. I'm going to read my book before I go to bed at night, or I'm going to tell one of my parents, right, that I'm doing this, and they'll help me make sure I put my phone somewhere else and unwind, for 15 to 30 minutes before bed
Okay. All right.
to get a better night's sleep.
Okay. Thank you. That was actually a great overview of how
Health's kind of
class
working.
works. Yeah.
Good.
So, so next 2 things. Tell me about the Be Bold grant.
Okay.
What that is. And then after that, we'll talk about the curriculum you're writing. Or are they the same?
The curriculum has already been written.
Okay.
And has been distributed. And I'll talk about that with the Bold Grant in a second. So 2 years ago, so the 23-24 school year. So I have to think of school years, right?
Right.
So not this school year, the year before.
23, 24.
Yes. The DPI, Meg Whaley, who is the DPI consultant for physical education and health, sent out requests for health educators that would be interested in piloting the brain health curriculum. So I accepted that challenge, I guess, if you will. And there was a stipend involved, but it also involved you had to get some data and some information from your students, just in the sense of like a pre-quiz, a post-quiz. So I did that with 1/4 of students last year, and it was very well received. Then when Meg was sending out requests for the Best Practices Conference that was coming up this past summer, I asked her, do you think I should present on what I did with my students with brain health? And she said, absolutely. So what I did is I took the curriculum as is, really on paper, and I had to make it come alive for my students, for engagement, for myself, right? How my style of teaching and engagement with my students, and interactive and skill-based. So I did that, and then I presented that at Best Practices in Health and Physical Education. That's every year in Stevens Point. So I spoke at that. So there's a woman that's behind the brain health curriculum. Her name is Kathleen. She's the person that has worked, and there is the BOLD grant, which funds this project. And their bigger goal, arching goal, is to make the curriculum, because it's pretty long. It would really take 10 to 12 or 15 days if you were really going to do it in a health class, which in 9 weeks, that's just not really doable. You could, but it would take like your whole curriculum, right? So how do you, her task for me and another health educator in the area is, how do you take the curriculum and make it user-friendly so that any other health educator could pick it up and utilize parts of it or all of it or some of it and insert it into their health curriculum? So this year, so Kathleen loved what I did. She wanted myself to work on this BOLD grant project for the year to make it so that this summer and in the fall I'm presenting so that more educators get behind the importance of this and how to tie it back to the other health curriculum topics that you're talking about. So that's where I got the idea to do the Red Ribbon Week project in the fall, because I was so excited professionally. It just like gives me, I just get like ignited when I think about a cool project. And that's why I thought, oh, Red Ribbon Week, this is perfect. It's 1 week, it's October, it's in the first quarter. I'm gonna do project-based learning for that so I can practice, because I thought, how cool would it be if I could make the brain health curriculum project-based for kids, because that engagement piece and making them feel, I also made them feel really important, that they were part of something that was really cool, right? Not only are you an advocate, but you're part of this BOLD grant, and you get to give me feedback on what you like and don't like. And they definitely were the right group to help me with that, which I thought was really cool too. So that's kind of how it all came together. So I'm in the process still of working on the, as part of the BOLD grant, I'm still working on the brain health curriculum, and then we will present this summer and in the fall.
So you did your experiment with Red Ribbon Week.
Yeah.
And you got the feedback, but you're still using it in your classroom with what I saw this week, right? With the
Exactly.
the podcast.
Exactly. And so then I thought, so I think the brain health unit works really well for a project-based learning experience for students. Not every health educator across the state of Wisconsin is going to maybe invest that much time into something like that, or don't feel comfortable with that kind of a pathway. So I think my dream, right, would be, if you want to go with it, here's a project-based learning experience for students that ties in health topics related to wellness and the brain health curriculum, and I was able to merge them into a pretty cool project, I think, for our kids.
Yeah.
And obviously I, professionally or selfishly, because I'm working on this BOLD grant, I need and want student input. That I can be a better teacher if I know what my students need and want from benefiting from the project.
That's our episode for this week. I want to thank Kimberly Jaeger, health teacher at the middle school, for joining us and sharing her journey of learning and growing as a teacher. And I think we can see the results just from hearing what those students had to say. It's just it's a point of pride that someone from South Milwaukee is helping drive education in Wisconsin. Well, thank you for listening. This is Yes My Podcast, and we will see you next time.